Good afternoon, Anne Arundel County. Good afternoon, America. Welcome to Promoting Don't Get Fooled Again with Class. I'm your host, Anthony Bynum. The name of our production company is the Glen Burnie Players. These are exciting times here in Anne Arundel County. They're exciting times in America. I'm going to talk a little bit about that over the course of our show. Now, first, we want to give credit where credit is due as far as our sources are concerned. We use Wikipedia for this week's show and also the Wisconsin DNR. Now, last week, there was no show, as my wife and I, Dolores, were in Great Lakes, Chicago, visiting as my son Andre was graduating from basic training in the Navy. We're very, very proud of his accomplishments. Therefore, this week, our most admired part of our show segment is going to be devoted to the U.S. Navy. First, I want to do a little screen sharing with you. Okay, perfect. Now, over the last couple of years, I had become somewhat concerned about the toughness, the readiness of our U.S. military. I had read and heard some information that was a little discouraging. But after last week, all of that was laid to rest. I am convinced more than ever that our U.S. military forces are the most professional, the toughest, the bravest, the most competent, the number one military in the world. Take a look at this. Now, how's that for professionalism? So we're going to go back to screen sharing so we can talk a little bit more about the U.S. Navy. Perfect. The U.S. Navy traces its birth or beginning to 10/13/1775. The Second Continental Congress passed a resolution creating the Continental Navy. One of its first heroes was a Navy commander in the American Revolutionary War. His name was John Paul Jones. Now, John Paul Jones was born and raised in Scotland and became a sailor at the age of 13. He served as a commander on several merchant ships. After having killed one of his mutinous crew with a sword, he fled to the colony of Virginia and joined the newly formed Continental Navy and took up arms against Great Britain. He was known for taking the battle right to the enemy. The Navy has always been lock and step with the rest of the military. It's grown every step along the way. After in the Civil War, they used ironclad ships. In World War I, there were more armaments. But it was in World War II when a big decision was made. The Navy knew it would need more ships for the war in the Pacific. The problem with the aircraft carriers, because now air power was very, very important, was that it took a long time to build them, and they were very, very expensive. In stepped Mr. Henry Kaiser. Now, Kaiser had seen how these smaller aircraft carriers worked. He had seen them. But initially, his ideas were not considered. They just weren't. There was a chance encounter with a vice president of his company and who happened to know President Roosevelt. And that changed everything. He got another audience with President Roosevelt and key players and sold them on making these smaller aircraft carriers. Now, they didn't hold as many planes, but they could be made less expensively and faster. They helped turn the tide of World War II, but they became very important after World War II. You see, after the war, much of the Army had been demobilized, but yet there were still issues that had to be addressed. And one of the new SOPs, standard operating procedure, was the use of surveillance, and air power was crucial for doing that, especially in the next trouble spot, which was North Korea. So, to the U.S. Army, Navy, Marines, and Air Force, we say, hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray! Okay, we're gonna stop sharing right now. We're gonna move on to our next segment. Issues, organizations, people of importance in Anne Arundel County. This week, we want to take a look at the Anne Arundel House of Hope. Now, we're going to look at them for a couple of different reasons. First, let's take a look at their history. They actually started in 1992. There was an idea that was coming around about helping the homeless during the winter months. It became known as the Winter Relief. 12 churches participated in this initially. And in there, the Anne Arundel House of Hope, which is a nonprofit, was created. And the idea was to help individuals who needed help as far as transitional and permanent housing, all kinds of resources. And they are a great organization. As a matter of fact, the second reason we're talking about them, is an event that the Glen Burnie Players is going to have with them. And you're going to hear more about that right around the corner. So we're very excited about the opportunity to work with the Anne Arundel House of Hope. Now, the last segment, poems of speech. Well, like I noted, we were in Great Lakes, so I think it's only fitting to end there, right? So this is the last poem we're going to read. This, again, was made available by the Wisconsin DNR. And there were, if you remember, 5 poems that were inspired by Lake Superior by Nancy Franz. Well, I'm going to read the last one. It's called Lake Song. Waves sing to the shoreline, leaves bow to the breeze. Birds bask in solar melodies. I search for the rhythm, to be part of the song by hiking along the shoreline. The tune of the trees is accompanied by a hawk and the decadence of the goldenrod. We who hear the song look for harmonies to make the world right. So again, we want to thank Wisconsin DNR and this fine, fine writer, Nancy Franz, for her work. So as I noted, these are exciting times here in Anne Arundel County. The weather's about to change. It's getting a little cooler. And people seem to be getting a little happier. I see a lot more smiles. So until we see each other again, this is Anthony Bynum for Promoting Don't Get Fooled Again with Class. The name of our production company is the Glen Burnie Players. Bye-bye.